Hello, my name is Sierra Epps, and today I'm speaking with Jaleel Wallace. We are conducting this interview as a part of the IUP Oral History Program's Coronavirus Collection. We are conducting our interview over the WhatsApp call around 10:30 a.m. my time. Thank you for joining me today. I just want to make sure I had your consent that this information will be used and processed through IUP and my oral history class. Do I have your consent today, Jaleel?
Yeah, absolutely. I have my consent.
Perfect. How are you doing today?
I'm doing pretty good. Thank you for asking. Very excited to do the interview.
Oh, well, I'm excited to have you here. So, I just want to get some basic information from you. Where are you from? How old are you? And are you in school?
I'm from the United States, born and raised in New York. I'm currently 26. I turned 27 in 2 months, December. And I am currently not in school, no.
Okay. Could you tell me, your exact location, where you're currently at?
Oh, right now, I'm currently in Malaysia, and it is 10:31 p.m.
What city in Malaysia are you in?
I'm in Kuala Lumpur, or KL.
Oh, wonderful, wonderful. Have you been there during the whole COVID or just parts of it?
Um, well, I've been in KL for about 4 months out of the 7 months I've been here. The other 3 months I've been in two other places. One was Melawati, and the other place was Bangalore.
And now, are these countries in Malaysia or are they outside of Malaysia?
Oh, no, they're different cities in Malaysia.
So, can you repeat for me how long you've been traveling throughout Malaysia again? You said 4 months, right?
No, I've been traveling across Malaysia for 7 months now.
Okay. So, how long have you been in Asia in general? Have you been traveling from country to country or just city to city, specifically in Malaysia?
In total, I've been in Asia for about 10 months now. I left in January, and it is currently October.
Wow.
And basically, I've been going from country to country, so I've been to about 7 countries so far.
And can you tell me which countries you've been to?
I've been to Japan, South Korea, the Philippines, Thailand, Singapore, Malaysia. I feel like I'm missing one. No, actually 6 countries. My mistake.
No, you're perfectly fine. Sorry if you hear brief pauses. I'm actually writing stuff down right now.
Yeah, no problem.
Okay. So, when do you remember hearing about COVID? What country were you in? Were you in the United States when you first heard about COVID, on social media outlets or just the news in general? Or was your first remembrance of it while you were in Asia?
The very first time I heard about COVID was my first week of January when I was in Japan. And that was because my friend, his mom was reaching out to him and letting him know that there's some virus going around and she just wanted to make sure that he was okay and everything. I remember at the time, me and my friend really dismissed the situation because we just figured, it's just a mom, over-worrying, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So we didn't really take it as anything too severe or anything like that.
And how long was that feeling like while you were in Japan? How long were you there? Did you end up leaving towards a certain point during COVID?
I was in Japan for about 2 weeks, and during the entirety of the 2 weeks, I really didn't notice anything out of the ordinary regarding what was going on with the outbreak. I did notice when I was leaving Japan, when I returned back into the airport, that they did have what are those things called? Those temperature checkers?
Yeah, the heat
To check
scanners.
people's temperatures. Mm-hmm. Yeah, the heat scanners. So I did notice the heat scanners when we were actually flying out of Japan, but during my 2 weeks there, no, I didn't really notice anything. I didn't no, there were no news on media outlets. No one was wearing masks. Nothing like that was going on.
Okay. And so, where was the next place you visited after Japan?
The next place I went to was South Korea.
Okay. And what was it like there?
South Korea, that's when things got a little bit different. So, South Korea, I was in South Korea the third week of January. And during the third week of January, that's when a lot of news about COVID started picking up. So that's when we really started finding out about what was going on in the States, what was going on in China, and all that stuff. So that's when we really became more alert to it, to the point that me and my friend, we decided to just spend our whole entire week in South Korea, just spending most of our time indoors. We didn't really go out much. If we did go out, it was just to get food and come back. We didn't really go sightseeing or anything like that. I think what really made us nervous was when we actually got alerts from the South Korean government on our phones. When we actually got those emergency alerts, that's when we really kind of figured that something serious was kind of going on. And when you're in another country and you don't speak the language and you have an emergency alert in a language you don't even understand, that can be pretty terrifying, you know?
Most certainly. Out of any of the countries that you visited, did you speak the language at all?
No, not at all. None of them.
Okay. Do you feel as though your time in South Korea, whenever you couldn't understand the messages, was it a fear of panic, or I can only imagine it was something that you would really see out of a movie, honestly.
Oh, absolutely. There was panic. You know, when you have emergency alerts popping up on your phone, you don't understand. You don't know what's going on. You don't know that can mean the whole entire country is going to go into quarantine immediately, or you don't know what that means. More so to the fact that I'm in an Airbnb, so you don't know what can happen. They can tell us, oh, you know what? No guests allowed in the Airbnbs no more. They're not taking any foreigners in hotels, because that's something that happened in Malaysia. Hotels weren't allowed to take guests. So what about the foreigners that are currently in the country? So yeah, there was a lot of fear in that. Definitely, absolutely.
I can imagine so. Did anything like that happen to you while you were in South Korea that you felt as though you didn't have any home stability? Did you feel pressured to leave the country sooner than you expected?
No. In terms of outside forces, no, not at all. In terms of internally, did I want to just go to the next country because I felt like things were hitting the fan there? Yeah, because there was that sense of things were escalating in South Korea. I remember I started more and more people wearing masks and stuff like that. And one of the situations that actually brought light to what's going on was that when me and my friend were going shopping, we spoke with a guy, and he saw my camera equipment. He wanted to ask what I was doing. I told him that I was making YouTube videos, and I told him that I'm currently traveling around Asia to try to get footage and all that stuff,
Mm-hmm.
And what was interesting is that he said, "Oh, well, were you guys in China?" And I told him, "No, we weren't in China." And he's like, "Oh, that's pretty good, man, because of what's going on and everything. So it's a good thing you didn't go there." So that really brought light to what was going on, and that gave me a little peek into what's the word? A little peek into what people were thinking over there.
So it was an automatic jump on board. No one from China is allowed into South Korea. Was it sort of like that? Like they were already making restrictions and not accusations, but more so judgments based off of where people were going already.
I mean, I would assume so, because if their immediate response, well, at least for the guy I was talking to, was that, then maybe, but I don't know. I don't want to say oh, everyone was just against them based off one guy, but just from my one personal experience. You get what I mean?
Yeah. So as soon as you landed in South Korea, was it a big difference from Japan?
Not necessarily, because you got to remember, during the first couple of weeks, when people were still finding out about what was going on, the information was coming in quick. So they'll say, "Oh, this is happening and that's happening," or whatever. So the difference between my experience from day one in South Korea to day three changed drastically, just because of how fast information was coming in. So, yeah.
Oh, wow. Was your overall experience in South Korea good? Did you feel like an outsider because you are American? So, did you feel like any tension arising while you were there or anything such as that?
My experience, it was good for what I could enjoy. Like, I couldn't, what sucked was, the Chinese New Year and all that stuff, so I couldn't really attend those events and everything that was going on, even though those events were still going, and that just shows you a testament of, like, a lot of people didn't really know what they were dealing with as of yet. But, as an American and everything there, I didn't really notice any changes. It wasn't until I think when I was in Thailand when I really noticed like people were being a little bit more hostile towards foreigners because of what was going on. But in South Korea, no, not at all.
Okay, so it was an open, still pleasant, but also mask wearing society.
Yes.
Okay, wonderful. And now, after you visited South Korea, did you say you went to Thailand or was it the Philippines?
After South Korea, I flew to the Philippines.
Okay, and tell me about your experience there. Whenever boarding the plane in South Korea, did they have the same heat monitors that they did when leaving Japan?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, so you feel as though, or did you notice that people were just jumping on board very quick, like as far as making sure things were secure? Like when traveling from country to country, were there any other things you noticed in the airports between South Korea and the Philippines?
Um, Not really. Just more so the heat scanners and a lot more hand sanitizer, a lot more stations for hand sanitizer, but that was about it. Nothing too extreme or anything like that when I was flying from South Korea to the Philippines.
Okay, wonderful. So, whenever you arrived to the Philippines, what was it like? Were people wearing masks? Were people social distancing? What was that experience like?
In the Philippines, completely different thing now. No one was wearing masks. No masks, no hand sanitizer stations at the mall, no social distancing, nothing like that. Um, and I should note that I was in the Philippines for 3 weeks. I was in the Philippines from the last week of January to about mid-February. So in between that time, coronavirus news and information was like popping up more frequently. Case in point, a month from that time in March is when everything locked down. So things were picking up, but people were living business as usual in the Philippines. I went to a couple restaurants, I went to a couple malls and everything. And like in hindsight, yeah, completely reckless because of what's going on now. But at the moment, everyone is treating life as normal. You kind of forget what's going on.
Yeah, did you think that people in the area just thought, oh, it hasn't reached me yet, oh, we don't have any reported cases, it's okay to relax, like nothing too serious is going on yet?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I remember right before flying to the Philippines, I believe they only had reported what I want to say like 14 cases or something like that. So there was no urgency whatsoever, you know. Given the fact that now a couple months later, and then Philippines is one of the worst hit countries with the coronavirus, that really puts things into perspective. You get what I mean?
Yeah. Are you glad you left when you did? Like, did you plan on staying in the Philippines for longer than you did?
Yeah, funny story. I was actually supposed to fly back to the Philippines in June. No, yeah, in June. I was supposed to fly back to the Philippines in June, but because of what was going on, I ended up getting locked down in Malaysia, so I've been in Malaysia ever since.
Okay. So, while you were in the Philippines, do you regret not wearing a mask? Do you regret your actions? Or do you feel as though that was a time that you were able to not have to think about the pandemic and you were actually able to enjoy your trip as, a traveler outside the United States, traveling so far from home?
It's one of those situations where do I regret not wearing a mask? Yeah, absolutely. Because for all I know, I could have been like asymptomatic, and then I could have gave that to someone else and put their life at risk or whatever. So when you really put things into perspective, like, yeah, but at the same time, did I enjoy my trip? I'm not going to say I didn't enjoy my trip. I did. Now, if you were to ask me, would I do the same thing again? No, not at all. Wear a mask, I'll have hand sanitizer and all that stuff, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Just one of those things, like, what can you do? You know, you didn't know the information back then. It's a classic case of ignorance is bliss, you know?
Absolutely. Now, did you travel around from city to city in the Philippines? And if you did you see any differences between how they were treating it, or was it all just the same throughout the country?
I was actually just in BGC in the Philippines, and I believe Makati I went to, or I'm not too sure if it was Makati, but for the most part I was in BGC, and that was it. And in BGC, it's one of their more well-established cities, you know. So I didn't really see what was like on the outskirts, or how people on the outskirts of the city were living or dealing with COVID. I didn't really experience any of that.
Okay. So, your next destination was Singapore, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Whenever boarding the plane in the Philippines to get to Singapore, um, what was that like? Was there also still heat scanners going into the country? And what was it like when you entered into Singapore?
Singapore. So going from the Philippines to Singapore, were there heat scanners? Yes. Hand sanitizer? Yes. Masks? Not really. Not really. I noticed that the what's it called? Um, I'm not familiar with the word they use for the people who like give you snacks and everything on the plane. I'm not sure what they're called, but I noticed they were wearing masks, but it wasn't mandatory for passengers to wear masks. The thing that threw me off now though when I got to Singapore was that we landed in Changi Airport or something like that. It's basically like the world's top rated, one of the world's top rated airports, and it's like a very big tourist attraction. So one of the things me and my friend noticed when we got there was it was almost empty, like almost empty. You know, not a lot of people there. And when you go to literally one of the world's biggest attractions, you know, and it's almost empty, that shows you something serious is going on. People didn't want to be there. People that did see, they had masks on and everything. So that was a little bit mind-boggling, you know.
Do you know if the country ended up enforcing any type of travel ban or travel restrictions while you were there, or even after?
Currently, when I was there, and I was there, I want to say I was there the third week of February. No, there were no travel bans. People weren't wearing masks, but it wasn't mandatory. There was hand sanitizer and everything like that, but um, that was it. I didn't really notice anything too extreme, you know. But the perspective of that is that literally a month later, you asked me if they went to quarantine. Yeah. Literally, I want to say 3 weeks later from the time I was there, they had their borders closed down.
Oh wow. So are you glad you left when you did so you had the opportunity to keep traveling?
Oh, absolutely. Singapore is very expensive, so very happy I didn't get stuck there.
Okay. And what was your experience like in Singapore? Did you travel around? Did you get to see any interesting sights? Anything such as that?
Traveling around Singapore, it was, you know, fun. I experienced a few sites. I went to the Jewel, which is like another big thing at the airport and everything. So, it was business as usual. You know, there were more hand sanitizer stations. People were wearing masks. Um, I guess it's because a lot of people are still. If I had to gauge what the mentality was, I guess it was more of a, you know what, we still don't understand, but you know, be a little bit cautious. But either way, we don't really take it too seriously. You get what I mean?
Yeah, I definitely understand that.
So yeah, so I definitely think that was more so the mentality when dealing with Singapore. People were friendly. No one was disengaging. No one was afraid to get close to people or anything like that. But they did try to do their best to, like, you know, keep proper hygiene up and everything with masks and hand sanitizer, stuff like that, you know?
So they were giving people the option to stay protected if they wanted to and all that?
Yes, it wasn't mandated.
Okay. And what was the timeline that you were in Singapore?
Singapore, only a few days, not too long. It was the third week of February.
All right. Is there anything you would like to add about Singapore? Anything you noticed, anything you witnessed, heard, or encountered before I move on to the next country?
Outside of, like I said earlier, outside of the, world's biggest airport, number one rated airport and everything being like a ghost town, no, that was about it. The reason why I say that is because that was like the most mind-boggling experience, because anytime I watch videos, like I said earlier, you would always see those places packed with people. So to not see that and everything, I think that really gives you an idea of what everyone was thinking, you know?
Yeah, people just had the idea in their head that, something was actually going on.
Yeah.
Okay, wonderful. And then the next country you visited, was that Thailand or... Okay.
Thailand.
Okay, so whenever you left Singapore and entered Thailand, what was that like? Did they also have heat scanners as well, hand sanitizers, social distancing, things such as that?
So the thing with Thailand now, right? Yeah, they had heat scanners, they had all that stuff going on. The thing with Thailand is that when I was in Thailand, friendly people, obviously, but there were quite a few cases where you could tell, like, they weren't too fond of foreigners, They weren't too fond of foreigners being there, mainly for the fact that I hear a lot of people, I forgot what the word they were using, like farang or something like that. Some F word or whatever, right? But basically it meant that just didn't like foreigners there. I didn't really like foreigners there. It's because they felt like they were bringing the coronavirus to their country and everything, So they were very upset with that. And what sucks is that being in Thailand, I wore a mask and everything, but you would see people partying. A lot of people from like a lot of different countries, like who are clearly tourists, partying, not wearing masks, and like no disregard, And it sucks because if I feel like if Thailand probably had a mask mandate earlier, they wouldn't have gotten hit as hard as they did. And what sucks more is because they're a country that relies heavily on tourism. The fact that the very lifeblood of what they need to basically survive was essentially poisoning them, if you will. You get what I mean? So that whole thing in itself sucks.
I can imagine so. Did you ever have any personal encounters yourself where you felt any type of hostility as being an American, or anything such as that? Or did you feel as though you stood out because you are a foreigner and there was such an emphasis on foreigners being in the country?
I mean, well, I'm a Black American, so I definitely feel like I stood out, And were there any specific hostility to me? No, but were there opportunities? Were there situations where they would tell me, hey, make sure you have your hand sanitizer, everything like that. Oh yeah, they were very aggressive with that. Like I have to make sure I sanitize my hands and all that stuff. I don't think they would have been as aggressive to the people from Thailand or whatever. It's one of the situations where I believe that maybe that's just a foreigner, and they feel like we are the curse or whatever. So you get what I mean?
Yeah, I definitely understand that. So as a Black American traveling throughout Asia in general, what was your experience on that? Because I've heard other experiences from other friends who have been to like China and such, and as much as they loved the experience, they knew that they were an outsider as soon as they, entered into the country. Did you feel that way in any of the countries you were in?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely in all countries I've been in, actually. Less so in Malaysia, but from I would say Japan, South Korea, Thailand, Singapore, definitely felt like I was an outsider because um, yeah, you don't see a lot of African Americans. You don't see a lot of black people. You don't see a lot of them, let alone people who are also there for tourism. You don't see a lot. So you definitely get stares. You definitely get stares, and I'm fortunate that I wasn't in the direction because I remember people say experience that
Sorry,
take
you're
photo with
starting to
them
break up a little bit.
or touch the hair or whatever like that because like what was that?
You were just starting to break up a little bit. Can you repeat what you were saying, please?
Hello?
Hello?
Okay. Yeah, so I was saying, I forgot what I was saying. Okay.
You were talking about being a Black American. I think you were talking about South Korea, it was Singapore.
Okay. No, I was saying, for Japan, South Korea, Singapore, and Thailand, being African American, being a black guy in Asia, yeah, you definitely stand out. People do stare. That's something you cannot avoid. People will stare. Um, it was a little jarring when I was in Japan, but over a couple months, I just got used to it. Even in Malaysia, I still get stares every now and again, but it is what it is at this point.
Yeah, that's definitely understandable. Was there like a heavy emphasis on the coronavirus in Thailand? Like, did you receive any alerts while you were there, such as those received in South Korea?
Interestingly enough, South Korea was the only country I actually got emergency alerts from. Everywhere else, no. So yeah, in Thailand, no, I didn't receive any alerts. But you can, like I said before, you could tell that they were becoming more aggressive towards foreigners. They felt like foreigners were bringing the virus, which in their defense they were, bringing the virus to their country and everything. They weren't respecting their policies to social distance. Weren't respecting their policies to use hand sanitizer or wear a mask. So you just have a lot of that stuff going on. So it sucks when people who rely on tourism to survive, and then those same tourists who are coming there aren't even respecting um, protocol just to keep everyone safe. It's a lose-lose situation for everyone.
Most certainly is. Yeah. So, the next country you went to and are currently in is Malaysia, right?
Yes.
Okay. And so, did you go into lockdown during your time in Malaysia, or did you go in lockdown during your time in Thailand or quarantine?
I went into lockdown in Malaysia literally, I want to say 3 days after arriving in Malaysia. So within 3 days, the whole country went into lockdown.
What city were you in whenever you began lockdown?
I was in Milwaukee.
Okay. And what was the procedures there? So, whenever you entered the airport into Malaysia, were people wearing masks, social distancing? Were there heat scanners as well whenever you entered the Malaysian airport?
When I entered, yeah, there were heat scanners. There were hand sanitizer, masks. Again, not really. I don't think masks really got picked up until Malaysia went into the MCO, which was known as the Movement Control Order. And the Movement Control Order got enforced as of March 14th, I want to say. So, yeah, not really a mass mandate until um, March 14th. In which case, they went to very, very strict quarantine protocols and all that.
And what was it like? What is what was your daily routine while you were in quarantine?
Stay home. What else can you do? I remember looking at roads right before MCO, very busy, and realizing that um, during the MCO, no one is driving or anything. Let alone, too, another thing that was really scary was when I had to change Airbnbs. During the MCO, they did a thing where each city was locked down, so you couldn't go from one city to the next city. You had to stay in that one city. So I didn't know that. So when I was booking my next Airbnb, I booked the Airbnb into Kuala Lumpur, which is the next city. So when I was taking a Grab, the Grab driver got to a military checkpoint. I didn't even know they had military checkpoints in between cities. So the military checkpoint, the military guys, they don't even want to let me go into Kuala Lumpur. They wanted me to go back, but I told them, hey, I can't go back. You know, I don't have a place to stay back there. I have to go over here. My Airbnb's in the city, and they weren't even gonna let me until the Grab driver actually spoke with them. So that's a little bit of information on that there. You know.
That sounds like such a stressful situation. Was there a language barrier between you and the military officers?
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. You know, I'm arguing with a guy who has a rifle, you know, in his hand. That's not fun. That is not ideal whatsoever. You know, he has a rifle and everything. My passport is expired, but the MCO allows people with expired passports to stay in the country until the MCO lifts. So, fortunately, while I'm legally within the rights of that, you don't know what they know. You know, for all I know, they're not informed of that information. I also read on Reddit that, American foreigner got arrested illegally because they thought he was trying to live in Malaysia on an expired passport. They didn't know about the rules, so that's quite common. So when you have that going on, and again, he has the gun in front of me, not like he's pointing a gun at me or whatever, but he does have a gun in his hand because that's how they station themselves there. It's scary as fuck. I mean, crap.
It's
Didn't mean
okay.
to curse.
It is okay to live. But
Yeah.
I heard you say something about Reddit. So during your time in Asia, I know you didn't speak any of the languages, and there was an obvious language barrier between you and the people you were around. First off, did you have anybody to help you interpretate or for interpretation throughout your time? And also, how did Reddit influence your time in all of the countries as a whole?
In terms of interpretation, no, not at all. And in terms of Reddit was a big help. When you don't know what's going on, or if you need to know about what's going on in the country, and you just go to like the country's Reddit, and you'll always find like American tourists talking about the experiences that are going on in real time. So yeah, a lot that helped me a lot to navigate what to do and how to figure things out. Without that, I would probably be in a worse off situation than I am right now. So yeah, definitely a big help.
So, if you have the opportunity, would you meet up with other tourists from Malaysia who are currently in your situation through Reddit? If you had the opportunity.
I met with other people on Reddit, but I didn't like meet them in person. But wait, sorry, can you repeat the question one more time?
Yeah, of course. I was just wondering if you had the opportunity to possibly link up with other people, like Americans or just tourists, that are currently in the same predicament as you are as a tourist in Malaysia, would you?
If I had the opportunity to meet up with them, would I? Not really, because I'm in the mindset where I just really want to stay to myself during this quarantine. I don't want to get sick or anything like that. But do I talk to them in the groups and all that stuff? Yeah, absolutely, because that's where we all get our information. That's where we share our experiences. If someone goes to immigration, to talk about their passport or whatever, they'll post it in the Reddit threads, or they'll post it in a Facebook group for tourists, so everyone can know what to expect and what's going on and all that.
Yeah. Have you been using any other sites besides Reddit? Have you used like Facebook, Twitter, Pinterest, Instagram?
I've used Facebook groups to get information as well.
Are any of your other social media apps blocked while you're in, or have been blocked while you've been in any of the countries that you've been in?
No. Everything is currently working, so Yeah, my Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, all that has been working nonstop, no matter which country I've been in.
Okay, wonderful. Without the use of Reddit, do you think you would have been able to maneuver and just get around as well in Malaysia, Singapore, Philippines, or any other country you've been in?
No, not at all. If it wasn't for Reddit, I would have spent a lot more money just trying to figure things out and survive. So no, Reddit has definitely been helpful.
Okay, okay. And so, back to the lockdown and quarantine in Malaysia. What were some things that were able to get you by? Because I know staying indoors is obviously not ideal, especially while you're traveling in a foreign country. You would want to see what's going on outside and, enjoy your time. But, being so far from family as well, what was like, your mental and emotional state? How did you feel about the pandemic? Were you scared? Did you not know what was going on? Things such as that.
Was I scared? Absolutely, because um, I don't know what's going on, and it's scary to know that, like, all right, if you see a house on fire, obviously you can keep yourself safe. Don't go into the house on fire or whatever. Just stay away from danger. You get what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
You can't do that with a disease that's invisible. You just don't know, and I guess it's that constant fear of not knowing if you're in vicinity, like if you're in the range of that danger, that it's scary. More so to the fact that when you have family, literally on the other side of the world, you don't know what's going on with them. You don't know how things are affecting them. It's just scary to think about. You don't want anyone to get sick. My aunt ended up catching coronavirus and was on a ventilator for I want to say 1 week or 2 weeks or something like that. So like it's just scary. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
that just bothered me. But that's the time. Me and my girlfriend, we basically just watched movies. I worked on a few YouTube videos to try to really get back into my hobby of video editing and all that stuff. That went on for a couple weeks, but then it just got to the point where it just felt like the same thing over and over and over again. I found myself waking up to read a whole bunch of negative news about what's going on in the world. Oh, this country's in lockdown. This country's banning people. There's an outbreak here. America just hit 1 million, whatever. 1 million cases. It just became a slog to just wake up every morning. So after dealing with that for a couple months, I would say probably we were in a rut for about 1 month, 2 months. After that, we really decided to be more proactive in what we were doing. We took up meditation. We took up really just trying to figure ourselves out. We took up reading a lot of like self-improvement stuff and everything. Just anything to try to get into that mindset of just trying to be positive and hopeful for a better tomorrow.
Yeah, and that's wonderful you took those steps. I feel as though self-reflection was a lot of things that people end up going through during this quarantine because this is the time that we actually had time. So,
Yeah.
now was there any country that you were completely alone in? Like you had no one with you? When did because I remember you saying that in Japan you were with your friend and then you're currently with your girlfriend as well. When did you start linking up with certain people?
I've actually been with someone throughout this whole entire trip. So I was with my friend from. My friend was with me basically until Malaysia, and then he left the second month after Malaysia.
So
So
he
yeah,
was.
I've been with. Huh?
I was going to ask. So I know the whole immigration and passport situation. He was able to leave the country, but were you able to leave the country?
I chose not to leave the country because I didn't want to. I don't want to be on a plane. I'm very, very what's the word? I'm very afraid of catching the disease to the point that I don't want to do anything that can put me at risk. you know. And then, what ended up happening is that he ended up catching coronavirus anyway. So, yeah, that's kind of why I don't want to do any traveling.
So has it been easier having someone with you during this time so that way you're not completely stranded in another country?
Absolutely, yeah. It definitely helps with the mental toll, you know. I don't think I could have done this by myself, not at all, you know. So, yeah, definitely.
Okay, okay. And so I remember you saying something about how you were afraid to just travel in general. So if you had the opportunity, I'm guessing you wouldn't come back to the United States, but would you at all?
Um, if I had the opportunity to pick, I would rather stay here. Just for the fact that, you know, I don't want to be on a plane and take, like, God knows who. And I don't want to go being a. I basically think they're like, what's the word? I don't want to be in any area where I feel like I'm just getting sick because of so many people out there, you know? So I'm happy that I'm here for right now. Because we are currently in our MCO or CMCO, we're in some sort of movement order. I'm allowed to stay in Malaysia until January 14th. So if I can stay here until January 14th, I'll definitely pick that up, you know.
Yeah. And what are your plans after COVID? Where do you plan on going after Malaysia? Do you plan on staying in Asia a little bit longer, or would you come to the United States? Because I don't know if you've been keeping up with American news, but cases are skyrocketing by the daily. We're getting 40,000 reports at a time
Oh,
now.
oh yeah, I definitely keep it with American news, you know. And that's kind of the reason why I really don't want to go. Um, One of the reasons why I really don't want to go back is that, all right, let's assume that a vaccine comes or whatever, you know. I don't. I still think it's gonna take a couple years before we see like any sense of normalcy. But I can say now that I don't want to. What's the word? I don't want to get locked within the United States. I feel like there's a part of me that feels like it's keeps going on the trend that they're doing. I think other countries are just going to straight up ban them from traveling. You're not going to be able to travel internationally anymore because people don't want people from the United States in their country because of the spreading of COVID. And I personally don't want to be in a country uh, where just the symbols wearing masks. You know, I think of it as people do that. What's the word? Do the right thing. Wear a mask. All right, if you have medical issues or whatever, okay, I get that. But if not, just wear a mask. It doesn't hurt. It helps the people. It helps your neighbor or whatever. Let's try to do the right thing. You get what I mean?
Yeah. So wearing a mask hasn't become a political circumstance in any of the countries you've been to.
No, not at all. At least if they're, I haven't been like aware of it, but no, I've checked the Reddit threads. There's no like conversations about arguing about whether or not you should wear masks, nothing like that. You know, it's a mandate. People follow the mandate, and people just keep on living their lives.
Okay, wonderful. Um, so I do have some more questions about the United States and your thoughts on how we're handling the pandemic. Is it okay if I ask those?
Yeah, no problem.
Okay, perfect. So, if you were in the United States during the height of the pandemic, would you have continued to stay in the States or would you have left for your trip to Asia? Like, if you were here in January, or not even January, around March or February, whenever we first started to get like a few more cases in the United States, would you still have went on your trip to Asia?
If I was able to, yeah, absolutely. I have a very, I have a very fight mentality of getting the hell out of anywhere where things are getting progressively worse. My mentality is just get to safety, you know. So if you tell me that I'm in an area where 1,000 cases are popping up like every day or whatever, I'm gonna relocate.
Okay. Um, and were there any military action done in any of the countries? Like, was there a lot of police informing? Anybody getting arrested for not wearing masks or fines or citations such as that?
Oh yeah, people get arrested all the time, you know. Because like, all right, so even though there's a mandate and everything, I would say like a majority of people follow it, but I follow Malaysian news every day as well, and every few days you'll get the article. Oh, they arrested like 20 people here, 20 people there for breaking the protocol. So that definitely does happen. And the thing here is that if you get arrested for that, you'll get fined a lot of money or actually in jail. Like I've seen news reports that people get months worth of jail time for it. So it's definitely no joke here.
Yeah. And do you believe?
Even when what was that?
No, go ahead.
I was gonna say, even when the MCO first started, I remember reading an article where you're not supposed to go during the MCO. You're only allowed to go to a supermarket 100 yards or not yards, like it's like within a 100 something distance. So like you can only go to the nearest supermarket. You can't go to another supermarket if it's outside of your range. And I remember reading an article where a woman, she went to another supermarket because she just wanted to pick up a birthday cake for her boyfriend, and she got arrested for it because they said, "Oh, you're going to this supermarket where it's not even essential for you to go here to pick up something that's also not essential." She got arrested for that. So you definitely don't want to break the rules here.
So they were really adamant about the whole if it's not essential, do not leave your house.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
Okay. And do you believe that if the way the United States governed the way that certain Asian countries did as far as the mandate, would we be in the same circumstances right now? Or would you decide to travel home if there was less cases? Or do you just prefer being in Asia overall?
If there were less cases, hell, if there was a better handle on everything else going on, yeah, absolutely, I wouldn't mind. I would at least know that if I'm going back to the States, I'm not putting myself at risk of people who want to not wear masks because of the sense of, oh, it's my right or whatever. Because even that alone, that would trigger me, that would piss me off. So if there were less cases and there were strict mandates, then yeah, I would be more comfortable being back home. Absolutely.
Okay, wonderful. Um, Finally, what were your goals after, originally before COVID hit? What were some of your goals? What were the things you were planning on doing and that you had your hopes set out for?
Okay, so before COVID hit, the whole reason why I went on this trip was that I wanted to build up a strong YouTube channel, travel to different destinations, go to a lot of stuff, and just vlog my experience, have a good time. And I did that for a little bit until, the lockdown happened and I realized I couldn't even travel anymore, and that just put me off to the whole vlogging thing because it's like I wanted to make content that I enjoyed and I was making content to just try to have something out every week. And it came to the point where I just couldn't make content anymore because it's like I'm making content in house, you know? So I want to travel. I want to experience actual fun stuff that Malaysia has to offer, but I can't do that because of what's going down. So that was the goal that quickly got shafted because of the coronavirus. So now what I'm currently doing is that my girlfriend and I we're basically writers, and we're just doing that for a bit until hopefully things could get better, and then once things get better, I could go back into doing YouTube again.
Okay, that sounds wonderful. All right. Lastly, is there anything else you would like to add? Any other information you would like to provide about your overall experience, life in general? Any advice you would give to your future self? Anything such as that.
Say if anything, just if I had to give advice to my future self, just keep working out and just stuff like that. It's very easy to just fall into a run being in the house every single day. That gets depressing. You need sunlight. So just working out, walking outside, doing the stuff like that, just to try to get like sunlight and everything like that. That's a big plus. It's very good for your mental health. You really can't what's it called? You can't underestimate how important your mental health is, especially during this, because again, for a lot of people, you're just alone with your thoughts, you know. So if you don't have a proper way to cope with that, yeah, things can get dark pretty quickly. So if I had to give advice to anyone or anything like that, just try to be as healthy as possible and try to keep your mental state as clear as possible, and that would be a big benefit, you know.
Okay, wonderful. Well, thank you so much for conducting the interview with me. I learned a lot of information and I really appreciate it. So, all right.
No problem. Very happy to do.
No problem. No last closing thoughts? Nothing like that or anything?
No.
All right, wonderful. Well, thank you, Jaleel. Have a wonderful day.